Your grandmother's dining table is still standing. The one in your apartment will be firewood in 5 years. That's not an accident. Walk into any furniture store today and you'll see the same trick playing out in slow motion. Smooth salespeople in pressed shirts, soft lighting that makes particle board look like mahogany, price tags that seem reasonable until you realize you're financing a bookshelf. Everything looks fine. Everything feels temporary. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet voice whispers that furniture used to mean something different. It used to last. It used to be the thing you handed down to your children, not the thing you left on the curb when you moved. But here's what that voice doesn't tell you. Here's the part they don't want you to figure out. This isn't decay. This isn't some sad story about how we don't make things like we used to. This is design. This is strategy. Someone sat in a boardroom in the middle of the last century and realized that if furniture lasts forever, you only buy it once. And if you only buy it once, the money stops flowing. So they broke it. On purpose. They looked at the sturdy oak credenzas and the solid maple bed frames that had survived generations, and they saw a problem. Not a quality problem. A business problem. Let me take you back to a moment that changed everything. It's 1954. America is drunk on post-war prosperity. The suburbs are spreading like a rash across farmland, identical houses sprouting up in neat rows, each one filled with young families who believe they've finally made it. The Depression is behind them. The war is over, and for the first time in their lives, they have money to spend. The economy is humming. Factories that used to make bombers are now making refrigerators. And furniture companies are watching very carefully, because they're starting to see a problem on the horizon. See, their fathers and grandfathers had built furniture to last. Solid hardwood construction, dovetail joints, hand-rubbed finishes that would develop a patina over decades. Beautiful, durable pieces that could survive a house fire and come out needing nothing but a good cleaning. The kind of furniture that made it through the Dust Bowl, through cross-country moves in covered wagons, through generations of children carving their initials into the underside of drawers. This was furniture as heirloom, furniture as investment, furniture as legacy. And the industry was starting to realize that legacy is a terrible business model. There's a consultant who shows up in these boardrooms around this time. His name doesn't matter because there were dozens like him, all preaching the same gospel. He's not a furniture maker. He's an economist. And he's got a presentation that's going to reshape how America lives. He clicks through slides showing furniture company profit margins from 1920 through 1950. And there's a problem in the numbers. The curve is flattening. Sales are slowing. Not because people don't want furniture, but because people already have furniture. The stuff their parents bought is still good, still solid, still functional. And here's where he draws a line on the chalkboard that will echo through the next 70 years. He says the quiet part out loud. He says that durability is the enemy of growth. That if you build something that lasts 50 years, you've just locked yourself out of 49 years of potential sales. He doesn't say this like it's a bad thing. He says it like it's a revelation, like he's found the secret. And the men in those boardrooms, the ones who still remember when furniture making was a craft, when apprentices spent years learning how to select wood and cut joints, they lean forward, because he's offering them permission. Permission to stop fighting against obsolescence and start designing for it. This is where the story gets dark, because what happens next isn't just about furniture. It's about a shift in how American capitalism decides to operate. There's a term that starts getting thrown around in business schools and corporate strategy sessions. Planned obsolescence. It sounds technical, neutral, like a manufacturing philosophy. But strip away the jargon and here's what it means. Build things that break. Build things that go out of style. Build things that make people feel inadequate for owning them after a few years. Create a cycle of need where none existed before. And do it so smoothly that people don't realize they're being played. The furniture industry starts studying what other sectors have already figured out. The automakers have been doing this since the 1920s. Alfred Sloan at General Motors realized that Henry Ford's Model T was too good. It lasted too long. People would buy one and drive it for 15 years. So Sloan introduced the concept of the model year. Suddenly, cars didn't just break down. They became obsolete. Not mechanically, socially. Your 1953 Chevrolet still ran fine in 1956, but it looked old. It looked wrong. And your neighbors had the new one with the bigger tail fins and the two-tone paint job. Sloan didn't just sell cars. He sold shame. He sold the feeling that last year's model made you last year's person, and the money rolled in like a flood. The furniture companies watched this and had their awakening. They couldn't change styles as radically as cars. A chair is a chair, but they could change materials. They could change construction methods. They could replace solid wood with veneers. They could replace dovetail joints with staples and glue. They could replace hardwood frames with particle board and sawdust compressed into sheets. And here's the beautiful part. From their perspective, they could do all of this while making the furniture look better. At least at first. At least in the showroom. Veneer can be sanded smoother than solid wood. It can be stained more uniformly. It photographs better. It appeals to the modernist aesthetic that's taking over design magazines. Clean lines. Smooth surfaces. Everything looking machine perfect instead of handcrafted. They're not selling you garbage. They're selling you progress. Walk into a furniture store in 1965 and you're walking into a temple of the new. The salesman doesn't talk about joinery. He talks about Danish modern. He talks about the space age. He shows you a coffee table with tapered legs and a glass top, and he tells you this is what sophisticated people own now. That heavy Victorian sideboard your grandmother has? That's old-fashioned. That's clutter. This is streamlined. This is the future. And it only costs $79. You can take it home today. What he doesn't tell you is that in 7 years the veneer will start peeling. The particle board will swell if you spill water on it. The joints will wobble. The whole thing will develop a sad, exhausted quality that makes you embarrassed to have guests over. But by then he's sold 5 more coffee tables to other people, and the factory is humming, and the quarterly earnings report looks beautiful. There's a parallel story happening that makes all of this possible. It's happening in the forests of the Pacific Northwest, in the pine plantations of the South, in lumber mills that are changing how they process wood. Because to make cheap furniture, you need cheap wood. And the old-growth forests, the ones with trees that took 200 years to reach maturity, those are getting harder to access. The easy timber has been cut. What's left requires more work, more time, more money. So the industry pivots. They start planting fast-growth pine, trees that shoot up in 15 or 20 years instead of a century. The wood is softer, less dense, more prone to denting and warping. But there's a lot of it, and it's cheap. And if you cut it into thin sheets and glue it to particle board, most people can't tell the difference, not right away. The particle board itself is marketed as innovation. It's sold as making use of sawdust that would otherwise go to waste. It's environmentally friendly, they say. It's modern. It's engineered wood, which sounds sophisticated, better than nature, better than random trees growing in random ways. This is wood designed by experts, optimized for consistency. What they don't advertise is how it crumbles when you try to tighten a screw into it twice, how it dissolves into mush if it gets wet, how it off-gasses formaldehyde into your home for years, how it weighs nothing because it is nothing, just compressed dust held together with glue and prayer. By the 1970s, the transformation is complete. The furniture industry has successfully convinced America that cheap is normal, that replacing your couch every 5 years is just what people do. that the idea of furniture lasting for generations is quaint, old-fashioned, something your grandparents believed in back before we knew better. The catalogs show bright rooms filled with coordinated sets. The advertising promises that you can redecorate, reinvent yourself, stay current with trends. And underneath it all is the unspoken message. You are what you own, and what you own should be new. But here's where the story takes a turn that even the planners didn't fully anticipate. Because once you've trained an entire population to expect disposability, once you've normalized the idea that furniture is temporary, something shifts in how people relate to their spaces. The apartment stops being a home. It becomes a warehouse for stuff you're going to throw away eventually. You stop caring about the chair because you know it won't last. You stop investing in your space because everything in it feels provisional. And that feeling, that sense of impermanence, it starts to bleed into everything else. Your job feels temporary. Your relationships feel temporary. The future itself feels like something that's happening to you rather than something you're building. There are psychologists who study this, though they don't always connect it to furniture. They talk about the hedonic treadmill, the way humans adapt to their circumstances and constantly need new stimulation to feel satisfied. But what they miss is that the treadmill was built. It's not human nature that makes you dissatisfied with last year's couch. It's a marketing budget. It's a carefully crafted message, repeated so many times that it feels like your own thought. The emptiness you feel when you look at your living room isn't existential dread. It's buyer's remorse that hasn't happened yet. Your brain knows that nothing you own will last. And so it stops letting you love any of it. The financial mechanics of this system are elegant in their cruelty. Furniture stores now make more money on financing than on the furniture itself. They've learned from the auto industry again. Sell cheap goods at high interest rates. Get people to pay $30 a month for a bedroom set that costs $200 to manufacture. By the time they've paid it off, it's already falling apart, and they're already looking at new options. The monthly payment becomes permanent. It's not about buying a bed anymore. It's about buying the feeling that you're keeping up, that you're not falling behind, that your home looks like the homes in the lifestyle blogs that everyone pretends their home looks like. And the stores themselves have transformed. They're not showrooms anymore. They're theaters. Every piece is staged in a complete room setting, soft lighting, throw pillows arranged just so, a stack of books on the coffee table, a bowl of decorative balls on the console, a vase of fake flowers on the dining table. It's all designed to make you feel something, to make you imagine that if you buy this couch, your life will look like this room. Your relationships will be this harmonious. Your existence will have this kind of intentional, curated quality. It's not a lie, exactly. It's more like a drug, a glimpse of a life that feels more real than your actual life. And the only way to get closer to it is to buy what they're selling. The workers who make this furniture have their own story. The factories moved, first to the rural South, where labor was cheaper and unions were weaker, then overseas, to Mexico, to China, to Vietnam. Each move justified by the need to cut costs, to stay competitive, and each move making it easier to cut corners that would have been unthinkable when the factory was local. When the furniture maker lived in the same town as the people buying his chairs, when reputation mattered because everyone knew everyone. Now the supply chain is so long that accountability disappears into it. The factory worker in Guangdong has never met the person who will sit in the chair he's assembling. The designer who chose the materials will never see how they fail. The executive who decided to replace screws with staples will never feel the wobble in the table leg. It's a perfect system for producing junk because nobody involved has to live with the consequences. There's a word that comes up when you talk to people who restore furniture, who work with antiques, who remember how things used to be built. They talk about integrity, not as a moral quality, but as a physical one. A piece of furniture with integrity is one where every part supports every other part, where the structure itself holds the piece together, not just glue and hardware. A dovetailed joint is strong because of its shape. The interlocking teeth create a bond that gets tighter under stress. You don't need nails. You don't need screws. The wood itself, cut properly and fitted precisely, creates something that will last longer than the tree it came from. That's integrity, and is the first thing that got sacrificed. Because integrity takes time. It requires skill. It demands that the person building the furniture care about what they're making, and caring is expensive. The modern furniture factory is optimized for speed. A dresser that would have taken a craftsman 3 days to build in 1930 now comes off the line in 40 minutes. The wood is pre-cut. The holes are pre-drilled. The worker's job is to apply glue, insert dowels, and staple the back panel. There's no decision-making, no adjustment for the particular piece of wood, no pride in the finished product, just repetition. The same motion 1,000 times a day until the shift ends. And the dresser ships out in a flat box with an instruction manual written in broken English and diagrams that assume you have 3 hands. This is the part where I'm supposed to get angry, where the script calls for righteous indignation about corporate greed and the death of craftsmanship. And sure, there's something obscene about a system that produces billions of tons of furniture waste every year, that fills landfills with particle board that will take centuries to decompose into toxic dust. But anger misses the point, because this didn't happen in the shadows. This happened in plain sight. We watched it happen. We participated. Every time we chose the cheaper option. Every time we moved apartments and left the old furniture on the curb because it wasn't worth the cost of a moving truck. Every time we scrolled through Instagram and felt inadequate about our homes and clicked through to buy something new, we voted for this system with our wallets. The corporations didn't trick us. They just gave us what we said we wanted, which was everything, right now, for as little money as possible. But here's the thing they didn't count on. Here's where the story gets interesting again. People are starting to notice. Not everyone, not even most people, but enough. There's a quiet rebellion happening in estate sales and thrift stores. People are buying the furniture that their grandparents' generation threw away. The heavy wooden dressers with dovetailed drawers. The solid maple dining tables that need refinishing. The mid-century pieces that were built in the brief window when mass production met actual quality. They're hauling these things home, sanding them down, learning how to repair the joints, applying new finishes. And they're discovering something that the furniture industry hoped we'd forget. That good furniture feels different. That when you own something that's genuinely well made, your relationship to it changes. You stop seeing it as temporary. You start seeing it as yours. Really yours. The kind of yours that means you'll keep it, fix it when it breaks, pass it down eventually. This isn't nostalgia. This is people doing math. A solid wood dresser from 1960 cost $200 at an estate sale. Refinishing supplies cost another $100. You spend a weekend working on it, learning a skill, and you end up with something that will outlast you. Compare that to the particle board dresser from the furniture warehouse. $600, assembled with an Allen wrench, dead in 5 years. The math is obvious once you see it. But most people never see it because the cheap option is right there, available immediately, financeable at low monthly payments. The good option requires patience. It requires knowing where to look. It requires being willing to own something that doesn't look perfect right away. It requires, in other words, opting out of the system. And that's the real threat. Not that people will stop buying furniture, but that they'll stop buying new furniture. That they'll realize the game is rigged and simply refuse to play. The entire model falls apart if people start keeping things. If they repair instead of replace. If they value durability over trend. Because trend is how they keep you coming back. Trend is the mechanism that makes last year's purchase feel obsolete, even though it still functions. Break the spell of trend and you break the whole system. There's a deeper question buried in all of this, about what it means to live in a world where nothing lasts, where everything you own is slowly decomposing around you, where the objects in your home have no history and no future, just a brief present moment of utility before they become trash. This does something to people. It creates a background hum of anxiety, a sense that you're running in place, that accumulation isn't building toward anything, that your home is just a storage unit for things you're waiting to throw away. And maybe that's the real cost, not the money, not even the environmental damage, but the psychological weight of living surrounded by disposability, of never being able to settle because nothing around you is settled. Everything is temporary. Everything is provisional. Everything is waiting to fail. The way out is simpler than it seems. Stop buying their furniture. Not all of it, not forever, but stop participating in the cycle they've designed. Buy used. Buy solid wood. Buy things that are repairable. Learn what dovetail joints look like. Learn the difference between veneer and solid wood. Learn how to tighten a screw in real wood versus particle board. These aren't hard skills. They're just forgotten skills. And once you see the difference, you can't unsee it. The particle board dresser stops looking like a deal. It starts looking like garbage with a price tag. This isn't about being virtuous. This isn't about saving the planet, though that's a side effect. This is about refusing to be played, about recognizing that the game is designed to keep you buying forever, and that the only way to win is to stop playing. Buy the furniture your grandmother would have bought, the kind that's heavy enough to hurt your back when you move it, the kind that looks better in 20 years than it does today, the kind that you can sand down and refinish when your tastes change instead of throwing it away, the kind that makes you think twice before buying something new because you already have something good. The furniture industry wants you hungry, wants you dissatisfied, wants you scrolling through catalogs at midnight feeling like your home is inadequate. They've spent 70 years perfecting the art of creating that hunger, building it into the products themselves, making sure that everything breaks just fast enough that you're always shopping, always spending, always hoping that the next purchase will be the one that finally makes you feel settled. But here's the secret they can't afford for you to learn. You don't need new furniture. You need furniture that doesn't betray you. And that furniture already exists. It's in estate sales. It's in your grandparents' basement. It's in thrift stores and architectural salvage yards. It's been there the whole time. Solid, heavy, waiting for someone to remember that furniture used to mean something, that it used to last, that it was never supposed to be garbage. Your grandmother's table is still standing. Now you know why yours won't be, and now you know what to do about it.